We're always told to work hard for our money, right? But what if that's only half the story? Today, we're going to look beyond the simple paycheck and really dig into the machine that actually builds wealth.
This whole thing kicked off with a really simple question someone asked on Reddit, but it's a question that gets to the heart of something massive. It's about the difference between, working for your money and something else entirely. So what is that something else? Let's find out.
Okay, so when you first hear the answer, it seems almost too simple. It's probably a phrase you've heard of a million times. But the real secret isn't just knowing the phrase, it's understanding how it actually works. And there it is. Their money works for them. I mean, that's the fundamental shift right there. See, for most of us, wealth is linear. You trade your time for a paycheck. Simple. But to build real wealth, the game changes. The goal is to get your money, your assets, to generate more money all on its own, without you having to punch a clock. And look, this isn't some vague, abstract concept. We're talking about very specific things here. Things like investments in stocks and bonds, or owning assets like real estate or a piece of a business. These things can kick off their own income streams. We're talking dividends, rent payments, you name it. It's like your money gets its own job. And the best part? It never sleeps. It's working for you 24/7.
So if your money has a job, what makes it so incredibly good at it? Well, there's a secret sauce, an engine that powers this whole machine. And it's something so powerful, some people have called it the eighth wonder of the world.
It's called compounding, and this is where the magic really happens. See, it's the process of earning returns on your returns. The snowball analogy you see here, it's absolutely perfect. When that snowball starts rolling downhill, it's tiny. You barely notice it's growing. But give it time, give it momentum, and it becomes this unstoppable, massive force. That's your money, compounding. And this chart, wow, this just lays it all out. Look at this. If you're getting a 3% return, it'll take you almost 24 years to double your money. Okay, not bad. But look what happens when you jump to a 7% return. Suddenly, it's just over 10 years. And at 10%, you're doubling your cash in a little over 7 years. That is the math that builds fortunes in the background. It's not about hitting one home run. It's about this relentless, consistent growth happening over and over again. And this quote, which people often say came from Einstein, really nails it. It popped up in that Reddit thread for a reason. He who understands it earns it. He who doesn't pays it. This perfectly shows how compounding is a double-edged sword, right? When you're investing, it's your best friend. But when you have high-interest debt, like credit card debt, it's the exact same force, but it's working against you day and night. Okay, so we have this amazing compounding engine, but where do you actually put it to work? I mean, to really get this thing going, you can't just let your money sit in a regular savings account. You've got to find the right fuel for the engine. And that fuel typically comes from a few main places. We're talking about things like stocks, which is basically owning a tiny piece of a company, or bonds, where you're kind of loaning money to a government or a big corporation and they pay you interest. And of course, real estate. A lot of people also use things like mutual funds, which are great because they let you buy a whole mix of these things all at once, spreading your risk. All right, so this all brings us to the real puzzle here, the central question of this whole explainer. If the formula seems so simple, you just invest in these assets, let compounding do its thing, then why isn't everyone doing it? I mean, if it's that easy, why isn't everyone rich? The path seems so clear, right? Well, it turns out there's a huge, huge roadblock that stops most people dead in their tracks. And on the surface, it sounds so simple. I love this comment from that Reddit thread. You buy part of a business, and then you get a small percentage of its profits without actually having to do any work. It sounds like a cheat code for life, right? So easy, so accessible. But that simple idea is hiding a much, much bigger challenge. And here it is. This is the roadblock. A massive study from the European Central Bank found something pretty shocking. They asked people 5 basic financial literacy questions. We're not talking advanced calculus here. We're talking fundamentals like interest rates and inflation. And less than half the people, only about 40%, could get them right. So there's this enormous gap between how simple investing sounds and what people actually understand. And you know what? When you get even a little more advanced, that gap becomes a giant chasm. Just look at this. The study asked a really fundamental question about managing risk. Is it safer to own a single stock or a mutual fund? And less than half of people got it right. A majority either got it wrong or just plain didn't know. This is the idea of diversification, one of the most basic principles of investing, and most people are in the dark.
So why does any of this matter? Well, this isn't just a fun trivia night question. This knowledge gap, or lack of it, has huge real-world consequences for pretty much everyone.
Because the researchers in that study didn't just stop at finding the knowledge gap. They measured what it does. And their conclusion couldn't have been clearer. There is a direct, powerful link between how much you know about finance and how much wealth you build. It's not academic. It's a primary driver of whether or not you accumulate wealth. So really, what the research found is that people end up on one of two very different paths. On one path, you've got this awesome virtuous cycle. You have some financial knowledge that leads you to plan and invest your money, and boom, you start to accumulate wealth. But the other path, it's more like a trap. Financial illiteracy leads to either doing nothing at all or making big mistakes, and the result is you just get stuck. Your wealth stagnates. It's a total fork in the road, and it seems like financial knowledge is the map that tells you which way to go.
So in the end, the secret to how wealth really works, well, it isn't much of a secret, is it? The formula's out there for anyone to see. The real problem, the real barrier, is this massive gap in knowledge. And that leaves us with one last big question to think about. If this financial knowledge is one of the most important tools we have for building a secure future, what does it mean when so many of us are handed that toolbox with no instructions?